So in chapter 12, we're discussing parables. And the first thing that stood out to me in this chapter was the parables encounter, interpret, and invite the listener or reader to participate in Jesus' new world vision of the kingdom. So there's been a lot of debate and there's been a lot of confusion in history about why Jesus used parables so much. About a third of his teachings are parables. But we can find answers in this chapter, which will help us. And I think the biggest thing for Jesus was that he was not only interacting with lay people, for lack of a better word, regular people on a daily basis, but he was also interacting with higher class people and priests and kings, and so he wanted a way for to not just say XYZ. He wanted to provide them a way so that they had to think and make a decision for themselves. Some of the characteristics of the parables I thought were really important as well. First one being earthiness. So he has different words. We've got the lost coin, prodigal son, mustard seed, sheep's clothing. All of these things are normal things that everybody in that time was using, or they knew what they were. If Christ had come and had just talked about the kingdom the way that he fully understood it, people would not have been able to comprehend what he was talking about, because the kingdom and the new covenant was so different than what they were used to in the Jewish law. And then also we've got two different people groups. We've got the Jews, we've got the Gentiles, and so he also needed a way to communicate to both of them, and for both of them to understand what he was talking about. The second characteristic is conciseness. They're simple and they're not complicated. So, if you take one of the parables and you teach it to a 5 or a 6-year-old, a person who's 80 years old, both of them are going to understand the moral of the story. And so that's another important thing for us to know. Though they may be complex concepts, and we, at the end of the story, have to make a choice, they are simple. The next thing is they have major and they have minor points. So, again, going back to its conciseness, there's a few points in it, but they have a huge impact on us, and they can also have a small impact on us. The repetition is the fourth one here, and that, as he puts it, it stresses the climax or the major point of the parable. So in the prodigal son, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son." Or in a similar wording, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things." And so you've kind of got like a compare and contrast part. "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you." And then, "Well done, good and faithful servant." He's using different words there, but he's connecting them to make sense. And then we've got the conclusion at the end, such as, "This is how it will be with anyone who stores up things for himself. Which of them will love him more? Which of these three do you think was a neighbor?" So he kind of leaves it in a challenge or in a question for the people to decide and take that story, and you have to think about it. It's not a someone saying the sky is blue. He's giving people the opportunity, which translates to him. Jesus kind of left it open. We can either accept Christ or not accept Christ, and that's kind of another important thing about his parables. There's a relatedness to each of these parables. He wanted a positive or a negative response from the people, and so his parables drive home a point, and they force us to have a response. Another part is the reversal of an expectation. Again, it's kind of an open-ended thing. I mean, you either can decide what it means or not decide what it means. You can either accept Christ or you can not accept Christ. And then kingdom-centered eschatology, and this goes throughout all of the parables. All of this is Jesus is trying to explain and point us to the kingdom. So what does the kingdom look like? How can we understand the kingdom of God if we've never seen it or have encountered it? All of these parables point back to what the kingdom is like. And then it also brings up kingdom ethics, different aspects of the kingdom, God and salvation, as I just kind of talked about before. It's offered to us. Jesus made that sacrifice to us, and it's up to us to discern and to think about it and make a choice. We have to make a choice whether to follow him or not. And so all of these things kind of connect together. Parables are all different, but they're all essentially the same because they point us to Christ and what the kingdom is and what the kingdom means for us.